Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today we are focusing on the long range of Warzone 2. With the Season 2 update, we saw some changes that really just made things more competitive overall. It wasn't drastically shifting one gun to the bottom of the list and another gun from the bottom to the top, but everything more is now much tighter in terms of the overall comparison. There's not as many gaps in gun 1A being so much higher than, you know, gun 3, gun 4, so on and so forth. That said, we're starting here with the most basic of long-range guns because this is still, despite the nerf, a top-tier option, the RPK. I won't lie, I'm incredibly bored of this. That's why I want to get it out of the way right here now so we don't have to continue to talk about it, right? The nerf was not enough. This thing still fries for long range. It's a great option, low recoil, good damage. Setup here really hasn't changed all that much. We're going for the AMOB V4 for the eye position, faster ADS on the tunes there. I got the Demo X2 rear grip, basically all control stats with no cons there. I'm tuning for the better stability and recoil steadiness. I go for high velocity, keeps that consistency over mid to long range much better in my opinion. It's a crucial attachment, especially on a lot of long range setups. I go for better velocity and better damage range on the tunes there. The Edge 47 underbarrel, great for stabilization, gonna keep your gun nice and easy to use with a little bit of extra recoil control added in there, tuning for the stability and stabilization stats in general. And lastly, I go for the Sakin Tread 40. If you wanted to use a larger suppressor that's gonna give you range and velocity, that's a good option too. I just prefer the control here, so I'm constantly landing my shots. We tune for even better gun kick control and even better stabilization in this case. Like I said, this is as basic and as boring as it gets because the RPK is nothing new whatsoever. However, the RPK does have a new challenger. It's no longer the #1 GOAT long-range weapon. The Sakin MG38 is right there. In my opinion, I like this gun way more. I will say the RPK feels a bit more aggressive in terms of mobility and reload speed, etc., but this is a laser beam. No recoil, so easy to shoot. I love this thing. It just feels so consistent and so good right now. Setup here is going to be somewhat similar. First up, I do go for the AMOB V4 for the eye position, faster ADS on the tunes. I use the G305 rear grip wrap here. Again, it's going to be for better control, just like over on the RPK, tuning for essentially the same things. That said, I would encourage you to maybe try out between the G305 rear grip and the Edge 47. Maybe take one of those off and throw on high velocity ammo if you wanted to, and just see how the weapon performs. This setup in particular is all recoil based, so it's going to be just shooting as straight as possible. Very minimal effort in controlling recoil, but obviously, as mentioned, high velocity, if you can throw it on a class, certainly worth it. It just depends on your level of comfortability with any given gun. So Edge 47 here, same deal as before, better idle stability, better recoil stabilization on those tunes. Sakin Tread 40 yet again, better stabilization, better gun kick control on top of the overall control I'm already getting. Then I do go for the Silver Series barrel just because this is going to help out with the velocity, the range, and the control all in one, and it's really only hurting things that an LMG doesn't really take into consideration where you're fighting with this thing as is, right? So minimal cons for a decent payoff here, better damage range and steadiness on the tunes there. Like I said, I'm loving this thing right now. It just feels so good and so consistent. Of course, another long range option that is not really a surprise is the RAAL. Really, the only thing that changed with this between Season 1 and Season 2 is the fact that it's now slightly harder to use because the increased recoil. That's why my whole setup here basically just focuses on attacking the recoil and making it as easy to use as possible, because as we've talked about and will continue to talk about, the TTK on this thing over range is absolutely absurd, right? So pretty basic setup here that we've been talking about for a bit now. AMOB V4 per usual, or whatever optic you're the most comfortable with. Furthest eye position, faster ADS on the tunes. Stip 40 rear grip for better control, tuning to maximize that even more. Dune underbarrel here. This is going to help out with stability and recoil steadiness, so all general recoil control, again tuning to maximize that even more as well. I go for the Shred CP90 on here, better vertical control primarily, some horizontal, better stabilization and gun kick control on those tunes. And lastly, I really like the Rhino barrel because this is going to give you a ton of extra velocity and also help out with the control at the same time, so you're getting better damage range, steadiness, and those aforementioned pros all in one attachment, which is really nice considering we're just focusing on making this thing as much of a laser beam as possible for those long range fights. Then we move away from some of the LMGs and into some of the more aggressive options for some of the mid to long range, and these are all still obviously great, you know, upwards of 100 meters depending on your skill level. The TAC 56 is one I want to mention here, not because of its damage and its TTK like with all those LMGs, but rather how easy this is to use. Its TTK is somewhat mediocre, especially when you're in like the 80, 90, 100 meter range, but you got to factor in realistic TTK. When you compare the TTKs outright, that's considering you're hitting all your shots, right? You're gonna miss more shots with a RAAL, with an RPK, with a Sakin than the SCAR, just straight up because this thing is so easy to use. The recoil is almost non-existent. This setup here is one of my favorites in the game right now. going iron sights because I love the way they look and I can capitalize on the long range efficiency because of that. I go for the combat rear grip here, better control, tuning to maximize that once more. 40 round mag here, nice and consistent as well for those squad fights. High velocity ammo, of course, is a must-have in this situation, tuning for the better velocity and better damage range once more. Edge 47 underbarrel, again, same deal here with the better stability and stabilization. And then lastly, I do go for the Echoless 80 suppressor here. You could go for muzzle as well if you wanted to capitalize on the control even more, but with how easy this is to use, I like this setup in particular. The Harbinger is also a solid choice, but this is going to give you that better range, that better velocity as well. It'll make it feel more consistent. I tune for the better velocity and better ADS speed on this as well. So by far one of the most straightforward and reliable guns in the game right now. Also, as we are breaking everything down today, just a quick reminder, if you're new here, every single day I got you guys covered with all things going on in COD. News, updates, class setups, tips, you name it, it's all right here. So feel free to hit that subscribe button, turn on those post notifications, and if you guys enjoy the video or if you find it helpful, let me know by dropping a like on it as well. Would be really appreciated. Let's try and aim for 2,000 likes on this one. Now, right there with the TAC 56 is the brand new HEMLOCK or ISO HEMLOCK rifle. This thing is basically a 1-for-1 copy of the TAC 56 in terms of stats, except for over range, it does take over as the slightly better option here. It again is super low recoil, not the fastest TTK in the world, but it's just so reliable and so easy to use. So here again, I go for the AMOB V4. I don't like the irons, especially for long range. In this case, the scars are much cleaner for that. Furthest eye position, faster ADS, no surprises there. 45 round mag will work fine for, duos, trios, quads, etc. High velocity ammo yet again to keep that nice and consistent over range, better velocity, better damage range on those tunes. Edge 47 on here, yet again, no changes to the tuning here. Stabilization and idle stability is what we're focused on. And then in this case, I do again go for the Sakin Tread 40 just for that pure easy control factor. This thing is about as simple as it comes in terms of recoil right now. Again, though, if you wanted to go for a suppressor, there's certainly are options here that would work, just like over on the TAC 56. Echoless 80 would be a great choice. Harbinger would also work well for what it's worth. So you could experiment around with that if you'd like, but this is a setup in particular that currently I'm really enjoying. Now, staying on the topic of just pure easy to use weapons, the M13. Now, yes, this for long range got a slight nerf with the season 2 update despite its mid-range being buffed. However, because this thing is so low recoil, I still see it as a top tier option for mid to long range. I've been using it a lot lately, and despite the nerfs, it's still feeling very, very consistent in my eyes. It's weird though that it caught a nerf with season 2, despite the fact that it definitely did not need one. It was not anything crazy before, and now it just functions differently than before, which is kind of strange. But regardless, here I got the AMOB V4 yet again, same tunes, no surprises there. 60 round mag because you gotta have that extended mag on here with how fast this fire rate is. The damage per mag is still probably one of the biggest drawbacks of this gun in general. I got the Bruin Echelon barrel on here. I've gone back and forth between using this barrel and high velocity ammo, and personally I don't notice much of a consistency difference other than the fact that the added control of this barrel does make it slightly easier to shoot. So feel free to experiment with both of those and see which one feels the most consistent and reliable for you, but this is what I'm personally using right now, tuning again for that better range and steadiness. Sakin Tread 40, again, no surprises here, better gun kick, better stabilization, and once more, Edge 47 underbarrel for that better stabilization, just making it so that sway is basically non-existent when you're shooting, better stability and stabilization on those tunes. We've talked about this one a bit, but it's holding its own right now in the long-range meta, especially versus the other rifles. And then to round things out here today, I've got the Kastov 762, which, yes, again, caught a slight nerf with the season 2 update. However, for long range, it's still one of the top tier choices, as we've previously discussed, when it comes to TTK. This thing is still going to be absolutely frying in specific against the other assault rifles in this category. Obviously, it's much more aggressive than the LMGs, so you're kind of meeting in the middle with this gun, if you will. Still a fantastic choice despite the slight nerf with the season 2 update. Here we're going for AMOB V4 for the side position, faster ADS yet again. Demo X2 rear grip for the better control, tuning to maximize that even more. 40 round extended mag is about as good as you can get, so you're kind of left with that, if you will. The one thing I will say you could mess around with this setup is dropping the Edge 47 and putting on high velocity if you wanted to. Certainly would be a good choice, especially for long range consistency with that better velocity stat in general. But Edge 47 is going to keep it nice and reliable as well in terms of its overall sway and control. Tuning obviously yet again to maximize that stability and stabilization. And once more, we've got the Sakin Tread 40 with more of the same there for the tunes as well. But overall, all of these options here today are going to put in the work when it comes to long range engagements. A lot of it is coming down to feel. Which weapons feel the most comfortable in your hands versus, the RAAL, the RPK, the Sakin, the HEMLOCK. whatever you're feeling you're doing the best with, because obviously comfortability is the #1 most important factor here. But that's gonna wrap things up for this one. If you guys enjoyed the video, if you found it helpful, let me know by dropping a like on it. And if you're new here, feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. That way you can always guarantee you're up to date with everything going on in COD. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.